I always like to say that I've been bred to fight because of it.
Yeah.
I was bullied quite a lot at school. I was always like one of the smallest kids in class. I don't want to be that cliche person that said it saved my life, do you know what I mean? But once I found out what UFC was, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to become a champion, to get to the top level.
Cool, so Lonnie, honour to meet you.
Nice to meet you
to
too.
be part of the journey so far with you. And Oxydise obviously playing their part of the recovery tools you're using, but more importantly seeing you out there and performing like you've done, and especially recently in Mexico. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal, so fair play.
Thank you very much.
I know you're always very humble in those situations, but it was absolutely phenomenal. Just to establish kind of where you've kind of come from, and I think it's a really kind of interesting sort of background that you've come from, but kind of what's brought you here. I know we're in your end, so to speak, at the moment. What's taken you to get to this kind of point, and your background and upbringing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so in terms of my upbringing, I'm half Chinese, half Irish. Chinese on my mum's side, Irish on my dad's side. So it's quite a different mix, you know. I always like to say that I've been bred to fight because of it.
Yeah.
But my mum and dad met through martial arts. My dad used to do like a Japanese style martial arts. My dad in his own right has his own crazy story where he's Irish, but he was adopted by a Japanese family, got into Japanese style martial arts, and then met my mum. Then I came along. My mum used to train, and then when I came along, I was a bit more of a handful, so she had to stop. And then yeah, from a young age, I was always surrounded by martial arts. Obviously, my dad was doing it. When I was a kid, I was too scared to do it. And then having a very strict Asian mum, it got to the point where she was like, "You're doing it." And ever since that day, I loved it, and I never looked back.
Yeah, when you say you were kind of scared back then, what was it that kind of intimidated you about it?
I think martial arts can be quite intimidating. Like, just because this is so unfamiliar to normal things in life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think when I was a kid, I was just scared to take part and try something new. But, like, thankfully, my mum pushed me into it, and then I'm so thankful she did, because ever since, I loved it. As soon as I did it for the first time properly, I was like, this is awesome. Why have I not done this sooner?
It's funny because even if you go into gyms, for me, that's trained over the course of my life, I remember periods where I don't train at all, and you go back into just a normal gym and it feels intimidating.
Of course.
So going into somewhere where people are like training, do you know what I mean, at the cutting edge of being able to take someone apart must be, yeah. It is, like those environments are intimidating. But like when it comes to kind of formative memories, is there anything in those kind of years as you developed into the person you're becoming and become, like is there anything that you remember that's kind of created who you are and that fortitude to fight?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I guess like I was bullied quite a lot at school. You know, I was always like one of the smallest kids in class. Being like mixed, you know how it is when you're at school, you banter about with your friends, but sometimes it's not really banter. I always felt a little bit different in that sense, and then I feel like martial arts helped me become like a person and become who I am and be a bit more confident. I guess when you walk with confidence, people start treating you a little bit more differently, and it just gave me like a purpose in life. But for martial arts, I like to, you know, I don't want to be that cliche person that said it saved my life, do you know what I mean? But it did, in a sense where, you know, I could have easily brought up in the wrong crowd, got involved with the wrong people, but growing up with martial arts and having something to always go to, like always have training and stuff, I avoided that quite a lot, and I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah, we were talking off camera before about your kind of developmental years in respect to then going to uni, and that you actually were doing PT in the morning, you were doing your training, then you were doing what you need to do academically. But for the whole day, from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, you were kind of zoned in and even weren't drinking or acting out in the way many people do when they go to uni. I'm fascinated by like how at that age you were able to be so dedicated to already kind of focusing on the right things without the distractions. Like, do you know where that kind of comes from, that kind of discipline? Is it, what inspires that?
I think I had a good upbringing in that sense, like prioritizing things that are important to you. And for me, once I found out what UFC was, I was like, this is what I want to do, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to become a champion, to get to the top level. You know, I always say that, like, I want to be the best fighter or best martial artist that I can be, and I'm willing to do what it takes to do that. So if that means sacrificing like stuff at uni and stuff, then I'm more than happy to do that, because it's something that I've worked towards my whole life, and I've dedicated my life towards. And I think having a good support system around you as well helps a lot with that.
Yeah.
You know, I have good friends, good family that push me and put pressure on me, but in a good way. Like, if they believe in me, then I got to make sure that their belief is worth it and make it count.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that keeps you driven a lot. and I do it for loads of different reasons, but a big part of it is to give back to the people that believed in me.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the marshmallow experiment, have you? Where
No.
So they'll get like, I think they're toddler age kids, and might be a bit older than that, maybe they're like 2 to 4, something like that. But they have like these young kids, and they'll test them by saying, you can have the marshmallow now, or if you can wait for me to leave the room and come back, I'll give you an extra marshmallow. So then the kids that wait and get the extra marshmallow, when they've tracked them over time, they actually achieve more in their life because they've got that delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So I kind of see a little bit like in you. You naturally have that vision of thinking, oh, actually, I can see into the future here, rather than be in the short term think, well, I could eat whereas I was always a kid that would eat the marshmallow the moment they left the room, to be honest. So, but when you kind of transitioned then from this kind of young fledgling fighter who was kind of focused on the fighting, how was it you then got into the UFC? What was the kind of stepping stones into UFC for you?
So a lot of it, I like to say that I kind of fell my way into it, as in the sense of like, I feel like I have such a good support team around me. All I had to do was focus on training and getting better as a fighter, and then everything else would fall into place. You know, when you first start off, you fight your way through amateur, and my amateur record was terrible. Do you know what I mean? Like I think my amateur record was 2-2-2-1. I don't even know how you get that, but I still had that belief from my coaches, my family and stuff. Turned professional, came through Cage Warriors, which is like a big feeder to the UFC, and like I have teammates that have been there and done that, like Nathaniel Wood, who's fought their way through Cage Warriors, got signed to the UFC, and now smashing it in the UFC. So that blueprint was already set. And again, I had the right people, the right coaches to push me into that, racking up some wins through Cage Warriors. And then from there, meeting my manager, Jose, who got me an opportunity on Contender Series, managing to get a good performance on the Contender Series in front of Dana, and then getting signed to the UFC.
And as you say, you've gone on to establish yourself in the UFC, particularly after the last fight, which was kind of epic. But then you had the fight before that, and it's kind of a fascinating journey and like challenge in that you had this fight against Charles Johnson, which you were doing very well in for a large part from what I saw of the fight. And I think in some part, you might be able to correct me on that, and we'll break down that fight for me. But kind of, it resulted in you kind of getting knocked down. But like, what kind of, how do you unpack that fight? Obviously, this is the fight before the one with Brandon Moreno. What kind of lessons did you take from that fight and things that you worked on afterwards? And I know you didn't have a lot of time after that to then go into the Brandon Moreno fight, but what was your kind of interpretation of that?
So I learned a lot of that fight, right? And unfortunately, it came with a loss, but the cliche saying is like, you win or you learn. A couple of big things I took away from that fight is working on cardio, making sure I never get tired again, because I feel like that played a factor into the fight. And it's just silly mistakes I made, like dropping my hands, like who steps back with their hands down. But it gave me something to work on, and I'm going to continue to work on until the day I retire, so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As much as it was a loss, I do see it as a blessing. It made me realise that the stuff I needed to work on. Big thing for me was that cardio aspect, making sure I never get tired, which the hyperbaric chamber helps a lot with that. My S&C coach as well, going back to the drawing board, building up again from scratch, and then working with my coaches, making sure my guard is always kept day one, my striking is improving, my grappling, and just making sure everything is improved in an overall sense. We're not just going to work on one thing. I feel like people can get caught up on that. Once one thing lets you down, they forget about the other things, where my coaches make sure everything gets brought up together. So that, you know, to be that best version of myself. It was a tough lesson, but it's a lesson I needed to learn.
Well, these are the things we grow from, as you say. But I find it like, particularly when I simulate the idea, because I'll like do bag work and stuff, and like at the end of a training session, I'll like hit the bag for a few rounds. But I always think to myself, at the point when I'm absolutely shattered, I think, imagine now being in a ring with a killer where you're that tired. And I find almost, because this sport is almost, you've got your team around you that you're very complimentary towards and very supportive of you, and obviously the growth that you've had so far. But you are in that ring on your own, and when you're that knackered, and you say, as just a person from the outside who's never probably going to fight in any circumstance that you're going through, what is that? Is there a part of it that feels that isolated, or is it always just, how does that work for you?
Yes and no, it's a hard one, right? Because obviously, like MMA itself is a very individualized sport where you like you said, you're in the cage by yourself against someone that is also by themselves. But the reason I'm so complimentary on my team is because they're always there, and they're the guys. It's like, I like to compare it to like a video game. I'm just the character, they're telling me what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a sense of like, when you've thrown it, like everything in the kitchen sink at someone, and they're standing there, you're like, oh fuck. Sorry to swear, but oh damn, what do I do now? Do you know what I mean? But I think that's the beauty about the sport, is like it's literally like the most like advanced human way to play chess. Like you're trying to be better than that person in front of you. Everything is involved in that. Like the way you time stuff, the shot selection you throw, where you throw them, the ability to surf your cardio. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things that go into it, and I think that's what I love about the sport.
How do you kind of technically unpack in real time that when you're fighting someone and you're seeing the kind of algorithm of their own movement, that you're picking up all this stuff from your own recognition of all the training you do and all the fighting and sparring you've done, but like, I'm fascinated by the unlocks that you're seeing. Oh, they're doing a certain movement, I presume, or I notice they're dropping their hand, or is it all things like that, or is it all unconscious?
I think there are elements of that. Like I feel what moment I'm always chasing for is that flow state.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where you don't think, you just do. And I'm always chasing that moment. And when you get in that moment, it feels amazing because like everything is just clicking, you know, like you make a miss by inches, you're countering back and stuff like that. But a lot of it is repetition, right? In training, you see so many things come towards you. It's about being able to use your eyes and being able to react to it, and then you drill a particular movement so many times that then you don't think about it. It's like walking now, right? Like when you're a kid, you have to think about putting one foot in front of the other, but now it's just automatic. And I feel like a lot of it is that. But there'll be little things that you work on in like training camp with your coaches. Okay, this particular guy does this, so this is what we're going to do to counter that, or we're going to start like this because he does this. And then you drill it so many times that it just becomes second nature to you. You just end up doing it and not thinking about it. Yeah, the best way to be in a fight is in that flow state.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of fighters chase.